the big guy, D?
No, he's happy. Let's let him enjoy the boat ride. Look, tell him when we find the Raptors, see?
Once more, you open the door.
Welcome, Raptors fans. In the last video, we set ourselves up to kind of take a look at trade machines. The point of this video is not to show you what I think the Raptors will do. Instead, it's to build off of the last video that I did talking about the different CBA rules and the power of the Bruce Brown contract to show what we could do if we wanted to. To do this, I'm using the inflated salary of Tobias Harris. That's going to be my white whale today. So spoiler, once I show you this trade, why it works, how we use the CBA to do it, and what it can do for all three teams, because there's counter arguments that you guys have been giving me in the comments, we'll go through those at the end of the video. And we'll have some fun because, as I said, I've been playing around with some animations and learning how to do like South Park style stuff. So I hope you enjoy it. At the end of the video, I'm also going to show a couple of the players that you guys like as potential trade targets, because we've been talking about how on this channel, we don't believe the hype that the Raptors are after #1 picks. If anything, we're looking to make a deal to bring in young players and expiring contracts and maybe move some of the superfluous picks we got from the Siakam trade to teams that have Stepien issues or like to remain really high in terms of the luxury tax, and they'll want some Stepien flexibility going forward. And then we'll talk about whether Bruce Brown even needs to be traded right now, because it is such a powerful, tantalizing contract to competing teams and teams, as we discussed in the last video, that want to get below an apron or a luxury tax threshold before the summer of 2025. This gives them flexibility because Bruce has a team option for next year, and this is on a player that can help you win. So remember, this video is not saying that we have to move Bruce. It's just showing the power of Bruce Brown's contract and how it limits us and most likely pushes us into the realm of a 3-team deal. So as you saw at the start of the cartoon, the Sixers have dumped a contract into the river, and now we go to Raptors HQ. Meanwhile, in the catacombs beneath Jurassic Park, a plan was being devised.
You gotta put the rope under your arm. Under your arm.
Mahalo, Mr. Larry. I'm sincerely trying.
Under the arm. Under the arm.
It hurts when I do that, Mr.
There's
Larry.
no way around it. We're gonna have to go to San Francisco.
Zoinks! San Francisco? Meow. Well, we're all out of jets. We'll have to take the bus and then my boat. Faster, Bobby. All right, road trip, Mr. Larry. I'll get us some boating outfits. Good idea, Bobby. I'll make sure the boat's stocked. Masai, you get a hold of the Warriors and tell them we're coming. I had a private court installed in the boat last summer. Bruce can get his shots up while we're on the way. It's this one over here, gentlemen.
I thought you said it had a bar, Mr. T.
You're carrying the bar, numbskull. In fact, pass that over. We'll christen this puppy. You just focus on getting your shots up before we get there, champ. We want you looking like $1 million when we hit the bay.
Yeah, I think that's the Raptors now, Steffi.
It sure is. Pass me that ball, D.
Dunleavy said they meet us here. Keep your eyes peeled.
You're incoming.
Tubular.
Well, I guess Steph made the trip.
Yes, it was God's plan. Drake, Steph, and Dre told our guys that the Sixers were looking to dump contracts. So our guys, of course, go out on a hunt to find the white whale, who ends up delivering them one of the contracts. But not before Steph swallows his mouth guard. Thank God for Dre magic and the Heimlich maneuver. Anyhow, the white whale ends up Scooby-Doo ending being Tobias Harris. And that's the story of how this fictitious trade came about. Well, that's the cartoon history anyway. The real history is that I had mentioned in my reaction video a few hours after the Siakam Brown deal that our cap flexibility, coupled with how good Bruce's contract was so crazy that we could go out and get an insanely inflated contract and potentially be buyers next year. It was just a rough trade that I threw up, but it was met with this hilarious reaction from Triple B Productions. And I thought that comment was so hilarious that I decided from that moment forward it would have to serve as the template I would use for the entire trade season to show just how much flexibility the Raptors have and who our trade targets should be, because in the OG Precious trades, we made it clear that the Raptors are not blowing it up. It's what I mean when I say people are out of touch when they want to blow things up. It's not what the Raptors are doing. The Siakam-Brown trade is an intermediate trade. Whether Brown gets traded or not, or something else happens, is a moot point. The fact is, this trade tree with Siakam is far from done. And I don't believe we're looking for picks because we don't have the roster spots to really utilize them. We're probably looking to get rid of picks in exchange for experienced NBA players with upside. So this trade morphed into the next day, this tweet. And at this point, I'm like, even though it's unlikely they moved Tobias Harris from the 76ers in general, this at least showed me that you could actually come up with a scenario where it was possible where all three teams might actually consider it. And it's still fictitious. Like, I'm not going to put on the tinfoil hat today, but I have it ready. And everything I'm saying is tinfoil, guys. I'm not saying this trade is the one that needs to be done, because even Triple B Productions is right. You're better off to go after a different white whale like the Fournier contract. It's why the Knicks are rumored to be talking to us, because that deal is way less complex and far-fetched. But the important part to note here is whether you go after Fournier or go after something crazy like Harris like this, one of the Raptors' objectives is to dump salary. Let me show you the other comments that came in regards to this. One from Top that I showed you earlier. He just mentions that he wouldn't move Yak. And right away I realized he was right, because it takes forever to get really good centers kind of acclimatized to the league, to the point where the guys that do Yak's type of job are hard to find. Like, they tend to be older. So we don't want to necessarily train a new guy if we're not blowing it up. So I took Yak off the table. And then I basically shelved it and started messing around with cartoons and stuff like that while I had to work and do all my normal everyday stuff. As I did it, I kept tinkering with the deal. And last night, I was commenting on a Raptors Digest video talking about how we would be seeking picks, which I disagree with. Anyhow, everyone's naming their picks in this one thread, so I'm like, hey, I'll throw it out and bounce it off these guys. I love hearing people's retorts to things. So, of course, I get Giovanni, who comments on this channel all the time and always has intelligent shit to say. And I love when all you guys comment because it helps me form my ideas and keep them evolving. So Giovanni points out, hey, what the heck, man? The Sixers are looking to actually shed salary, and that's why they won't move Harris. This is a fantastic point. If we deal with the Sixers, we're more likely to be eating the contract of like Marquise Morris or Korkmaz or Covington or somebody like that than doing Tobias Harris. But we already know it's a white whale, and it's just for fun. So I said to myself, is there a reason that the Sixers would still do this trade? So I had to modify the trade. So here is the final trade, and I think the Sixers and Golden State would consider doing this deal. I think it's a great deal for the Raptors. The reason the Sixers would do this deal is they add 3 ring bearers, and Nick Nurse is their head coach. And in this deal, they add 2 players he loves in the form of Otto and Chris, who have played with him before. And guess what? Wiggins has too. And you think Nick Nurse thinks Wiggins is done? I think he just needs greener pastures, and I think most of us know that that's true about Andrew. As far as we're concerned in this trade, I just picked 2 young players, one from each team that I thought were good. You could play around with that. Here's my rationale. Reed is expendable if they bring in the players that we're sending them, and Wiggins. So that makes Paul Reed expendable. He fits our window behind Yak as that power forward center that can run the court. And I picked Moody. As I'm sure many of you are already aware, there's a connection between Scotty Barnes and Moses Moody from Montverde. So I thought that was a good fit from our side. But why would the Warriors do it? The answer is, go back to the last video to see the power of the Bruce Brown contract. That's the first thing. The second thing is I've sweetened the pot. Unlike trades you're seeing out there right now, instead of me going after picks, I'm using the picks we just got to go beside Bruce Brown, which we can do. We can't put players beside him, but we can sweeten the pot to say, hey, we know you like the Bruce Brown contract and the fact that he might help you if you manage to do well in the play-in. But the picks are a big deal because they're Stepien picks. They already have picks in these 2 years. What this does to the Warriors is allows them to drop down below the second apron in the future so they don't get penalties. That's big next summer, as I've already said. And then they'll do what they always do. They will package these picks up and trade them to a Team that wants to blow it up in exchange for a disgruntled star, and the Warriors will be right back in the postseason mix. And I think they're more invested in Trace Jackson-Davis, giving Kuminga more playing time, which Wiggins leaving does, as does Moody leaving. And anyone that watches Dubs games knows that this is a big issue in the Bay right now, is they want more minutes for Kuminga, and more importantly, Kuminga wants more minutes for Kuminga. And lastly, if you watch Warriors games, the mentorship that is definitely going on between Steph and Podziemski is very obvious. It's like Jedi and Padawan. So I think they might actually move off a guy like Moses if the deal was right. And in terms of the CBA that we talked about in the last video, this deal is right. Bruce Brown can only be moved alongside picks. This is literally the potential that has, okay? So moving him with picks can maximize Bruce Brown, whether you're dealing with one team or two. Doesn't matter, 3, whatever. This, in my opinion, is the problem with most of the trade proposals I see floating around out there. We're the team that wants to make the next move. That's why they went so early with the OG trade, followed up really quickly with the Siakam trade, so that they can get to this other trade or two before the deadline. We want to make trades. We have to entice the other teams with some honey to pull them off of players they do like. They do like Moody. Philly loves Paul Reed. Giovanni, I can't wait to hear your thoughts, but I want to go back to this. I really think a guy like Nick Nurse would see this as an improvement over Tobias Harris on their team for the playoffs this year. And everyone who's saying they can't wait to be buyers next year is underestimating how much they want to win this year. Floppy Joe just got injured again, guys, and he's expected to miss 2 more games at least and be reevaluated. But barring something serious, the Sixers are only 5.5 games out of first place with lots of games left. I'm telling you, they like their team and they want to win. So let's say we take Toby out of the trade, because it's honestly likely they keep him. What can be done with these two teams? Here's a rework for you. Okay, now why do I suggest this one? Well, for us, it's home runs. We sweeten the pot to the Warriors with picks, one of them very far down the future when we expect to be a better team, and that allows us to peel away Moses Moody. We get Marcus Morris's contract back, which will expire this year, and we get Melton from the Sixers. And because we've only moved Bruce Brown to the Warriors alongside picks, it's legal. So the Warriors get step-in clauses, they unload contracts this year in Korkmaz, Covington, and the option on Brown. They get 2 picks for Stepien reasons to turn into future big players, and the Sixers get 3 ring bearers and an improved team. And once again, all 3 of those players have experience with Nick Nurse. Coaches love this stuff, guys. I think the Tobias trade and this trade both qualify here, and it's why I think Golden State and the Sixers are 2 very good trade partners with us. Don't forget, you could sweeten the pot even more. We have draft capital if we want to make the trades go through. Because listen, Melton and Moody are not small names. They would be major, major fish to catch for us. Oh! I look at your comments and trade targets.
He is dialed in.
All right, so this part's super fun because it comes from you guys commenting either here, Twitter, or in comments from other videos from other channels where I've run into you and we've had some conversations. So here are some of the trades, but remember the Bruce Brown checklist. I'm grading these and determining their viability based on this. Playoff or play-in bound teams are our trade partners. Teams looking to drop an apron or below the luxury tax threshold this year or next. Teams with step-in needs to avoid league reviews. Remember, just because they have picks doesn't mean they're not the type of team that likes to stockpile some picks and then throw them all at some rebuilding team to get a star. There's a lot of teams that want to do that, and we can offer them step-in flexibility. 3-team format, we've already been through that. I think it's more viable. You can do 2-team trades, but I think 3-team format is how we get young players and move our picks away. All right, so let's start with the Eastern Conference, and I will mention as we kind of go through it what you guys propose. So here is the East. Remember, the Reds are teams I don't feel are good partners. Either they don't have assets that we want, or the assets we would want are needed by them to make a playoff run, okay? So in the East, I feel like the Bucks and the Celtics kind of meet that description. Philly, we've already been through. So the guys we're interested in on Philly, you guys have mentioned Melton, you guys have mentioned Paul Reed and Jaden Springer. I think those are all good targets. Now, I will say this morning, I saw a Awards Report video talking about Philly as a trade partner, and the potential for the Tobias Harris contract, which is crazy. I haven't watched this video yet. I can't wait to see it. I got to get this one up, but I've already been through. Like, it's very unlikely they would want to move Toby, but I can't wait to see Warch's take on that. And and as I said, I think they're a great partner. Next, we got the Cavs. You guys have mentioned Okoro. I think he's a really gettable guy, and they would be interested in depth at guard. They've had issues with injuries at the guard position all year, and they very much would love a guy like Bruce Brown, and they want to be going for it. So in this trade, we even have Markkanen mocked going to them to improve them now, then the Jazz next, and then us. Knicks are a very interesting trade partner. Last night there was a conversation regarding the Knicks in the chat on Warch Report regarding another video he did, and Giovanni, I think, quite astutely pointed out that the Knicks see overlap between Bruce Brown and Josh Hart, and I actually think that's reasonable. So I don't know that they're a target for Bruce Brown, but I think they are interested in other players that we have. The Heat and the Pacers, I would list the Pacers as green before our trade, but now that that trade's gone through, I would say no. I don't think they have pieces that we can facilitate. I mean, unless the Heat are willing to move off a guy like Jaime Jaquez, and that's just not going to happen. He's right where they need him. Fultz, you guys have talked about. He's an expiring contract this year. He's very interesting to me from the bird rights standpoint. If you can get him to test his market value and we get a discount on him from where he's at now, I think he's around 17 mil. I like that. And we see the 905 experimenting with 4 guard lineups that include 2 slasher guards. Fultz is a defender. He's got great size, and he is a slasher guard. I think Fultz is a great fit if we see the Raptors going in the same direction as the 905 are tinkering, and that often does happen. The other guy that you guys mentioned here was Gary Harris. Good fit, but I think the Magic like him. And Wendell Carter Jr. Wendell Carter Jr., I don't think anybody's going to get from the Magic. Remember how everyone talked about OG's contract being so amazing for the team? Wendell Carter Jr. at this point is one of the best stretch bigs in the league. He accepts his role, and he is literally on one of the best contracts in the NBA. There's no way we peel that away from Jeff Weltman, in my opinion. The Bulls are interesting. I think the overlap between DeMar and Zach LaVine is very apparent to them at this point. They have other guards, and next year they'll have Lonzo coming back. So I think the Bulls could happen because they have Pat Williams, as you guys have mentioned, and Ayo as good trade targets. So there you go. Bulls could happen. Hawks, I'm going to move the Hawks to red or yellow. I just don't see it. They have players I like, okay, like Okongwu and even Bogdanovich or something like that. But I just don't see them as a good trade partner. There's a lot of times where you just have the same things and you're looking for the same stuff at the same time. It doesn't mean they don't have guys I like, okay? But I just don't see them as a viable trade partner. One of the best trade proposals that I saw that brought the Bruce Brown checklist into play was one by MJ, and it involved the Lakers and the Nets. And it went for a home run. Look at this trade, guys. So I thought maybe the only tweak would be that the Lakers would want to keep Gabe Vincent for a playoff run because of what he did with Miami, and that was why they kind of spent the money on him. So I don't know that they would move Gabe, so here's kind of like an amendment to MJ's trade, but both of these are great trades, and they take into account the Brown checklist. I love the home run swing by MJ here. It's really cool. It just shows you, like the Harris White Whale stuff that I showed you, that you could literally be trying to hit home runs this year. The bottom 3 teams here are interesting. We know Detroit is interested in inspiring contracts this year, and they could be used to help facilitate stuff. Same thing with Charlotte. They moved to get Kalo off the books and move Rozier. And Washington's window looks like 2 years from now. So we know this from the Detroit and Washington trade that sent Bagley over there. Washington will probably look to expire contracts next year, not this year. So they're looking for 2-year terms. So like the Fournier contract, you could see them swap with the Luke Kennard contract from Memphis, which takes us to the Western Conference. And of course, we would rather deal with Western Conference teams if we're going to be improving those teams. The T-Wolves, you guys have mentioned to me, they have great players, guys. But just like OKC and Sacramento, I would list, and even the Jazz, I would say they want most of the players that are on their team for playoff pushes this year. They don't have a lot of like movable parts because they're using the guys that we would be interested in. The Nuggets and the Clippers, I just don't see. Now I just got to watch Colin Gillespie up close, and that's a real freaking good target. They also have Watson. They have guys you could move for. I just think they really like them, and they don't lack depth. But you guys have pointed out they'd definitely be interested in Bruce Brown back. I just see it hard to come up with the money to match it But if you moved in a third team, it could become a viability there. And Gillespie, I think, could play in the NBA right now, for us at least. He's a very good player. Mavericks, I mocked a couple trades where Rashawn Holmes gets moved because they could use that salary to move around. But this one uses the Rockets, and the Rockets already went and moved the Oladipo contract to upgrade their team. And you guys quite rightly targeted Omax in your trades that you mocked. I love Omax. I got to see him this year. He's a very good young player and obviously Canadian. I also like Jaden Hardy from there. Any guard that's built like a bowling ball and has been under Jason Kidd for a couple seasons, I'm super interested in. And Suns, for different reasons, they're red here. The Suns just don't have anything I'm interested in, and they have terrible flexibility with their contracts. If you go down our roster, you got contracts of every value, so you can make trades work. The Suns have shit, guys. They've got like nothing they can really do, and they have no picks. I honestly feel like the league should have stepped in and triggered the step-in rule with the Suns ages ago. Golden State, one of the best trade partners for us because they will be seeking to lower their they want to drop their salary and by next summer. So they are a great trade partner for us. The bottom three teams are kind of like the bottom three teams from the East because these are all teams that want the same things as us. And so they might come in as a third team, but I don't see them as viable direct trade partners, okay? Unless you're looking for like the Luke Kennard contract from Memphis to get off your books. The thing is, they already signaled they're looking to do that themselves. All right, that was a lot. So thank you so much for your comments, guys. That really helped me sift through the league and take a look at what I thought was viable. Obviously, as I said, it's all tinfoil hats all the time when you're doing this stuff. But I think with this checklist and a mindset that says we need to sweeten the pot instead of expecting things back for trading our guys all the time, we want young players. We have to give stuff up to do it. And what we have to give them is the stuff on this list. We can sweeten the pots and actually facilitate like spur trades to happen. Okay, I got 2 videos in the pipeline. The first is gonna be one that brings up this notion that we can't attract free agents. And we're gonna take a look at the concept that I use in coaching and coaching my kids, raising my kids as a parent, self-efficacy, and we're going to talk about how that's relevant for the upcoming summer and what the Raptors strategy should be in terms of do we go into the summer with free agent dollars. The second one is revisiting the Lambs. So on my channel, the long arm monsters where everyone's Vision 6'9". I didn't see it as a height thing. I saw it as like a length disruption thing depending on the position. And I think it's timely to revisit that. Lastly, we've got 2 housekeeping issues. Shout out to Mr. New York City, who's been great at the G League this year. He's been a pleasure to watch, and he remains the embodiment of how we can approach the era of the Wembys and the Chets, the David and Goliath. Mr. New York City has been named to the G League All-Star Game. And no Blake Murphy, just because I say he's being load managed does not mean I think he's faking an injury. And then of course, Marc Gasol, who is one of the best trades ever made to change the fortunes of a playoff team in the history of the NBA. He has officially retired. My daughter remembers being sprayed with champagne by him, and I love that that is a lasting memory for her. Shout out to Mark. So guys, remember, it's all about the Larrys. Take care of each other, be well, give love, have fun. And remember patience, because we can't always get what we want. But if you try sometimes, you just might find, well, Mick?
Choirs, they come a long way to be with us tonight. They drove all the way. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.